afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Sabaji. I'm the regional sales manager for Quest Trust Company out of the Dallas office. I hope you're all having a great Saturday today so far, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. I think we got a really great topic for you. This is something that actually we focused on at Quest Expo, and it was very well received. And a lot of people went away asking for more or to be able to review this information some more as well, or get more context on this. So we've invited one of the primary panelists that we had to join us today, and we're going to have a free flow discussion. We have our moderator on hand as well, so we welcome your questions as well. But we're going to get started right now, actually. Technology and artificial intelligence, they're impacting just about every part of our lives these days. And it's no surprise that it's also having an impact on everything that we do relative to the business we conduct. So like I said, this was one of the more popular items that we did at Expo. And with all the content that there were a number of things that overlapped. And I myself didn't actually get to go to this session either. So I'm very happy to be here with Ryan today. Ryan he's probably one of the sharper minds out there that I know in this area. Ryan also is one of the better people in terms of some of the networking and educational events that he provides live. In fact, I just saw Ryan a little earlier this week at one of his monthly events. I'll let him tell you a little bit about that himself too. But if you are in the Dallas area, I highly encourage keeping an eye out for those types of events, because nothing ever replaces that. But we're going to talk a little bit about technology, how it's changing the landscape, the challenges that automation can have for investors. And most importantly, I think what we really want to focus on is how technology can be helpful and a useful tool in the best way possible going forward. So with that, Ryan, welcome. I'm going to let you give yourself a quick introduction, and then we'll start jumping in and get into some of these questions.
Yeah, I'll get to a quick introduction, but I do want to address something you just hit at the very end, which is a tool. Everything we're going to talk about is a tool. I think usually when people talk about technology or automation or AI, everybody's looking for the easy button or the cheat code. It's none of that. It's a tool. Going back to, most people don't realize that I started real estate in 2003. And I did it for a year or two, then got screwed over, and then took about a 10-year hiatus out of it. I got back in about 2012 with Tim Harridge, and I was on his team for quite a while. And that's where I got introduced to doing events and the networking aspect of it. So I have the 15 years plus in the single family real estate investing world. And it's very kind of you to say that I'm, sharper. I don't think it's that. I think it's when you have time and experience in a thing, you just know things. You know the people, who's maybe legit, maybe not so legit. Who's been foreclosed on publicly, and who's been foreclosed on not so publicly. And that's not to say that's good or bad. It just is what it is. But as far as technology goes, it's the reason I bring up the 03 thing is I remember a day when real estate was done on MapsGo, and then technology for that was, oh, cool, now we have Google Maps. And then, it was like, how do you pull comps? Well, you used your realtor friend who definitely did not give you their login to pull comps. And then it evolved to where then you had services like Propelio or PropStream where you can get comps from them. Nowadays, I've been told Zillow comps are pretty accurate. Whereas like 5 years ago, you would be laughed at if you used a Zillow comp as far as their Zestimate to get a comp. All that to be said, technology is all about a tool. If you're using it as a crutch or using it, well, you can use it as a crutch because a crutch is a tool. But if you're using it as like a cheat code, you're gonna get screwed. Because the reality is, if you've got a guy that has all the AI tools, all the automations, but that you have another guy that's just going to hustle, who can find 123 Main Street, but then also look at the Z estimate from Zillow, go make the offer, go get the deal, but you're at home on your technology. Guess who got the deal? The guy that hustled. But as far as I know, I'm long-winded and all over the place. But when it's not a panel, you're going to let me run around.
Of course we are.
But as far as what I do, now I'm more in the media side. I'm still very real estate adjacent. I do have a couple of investment properties, but I'm way, way, way more passive now. But that being said, I still have that experience in the world, and I still have all those connections. But I'm glad to be here, and thanks, Steve, for having me.
Yeah, that's a great starting place. I think maybe the theme of today is going to be something along the lines of, technology is neither good or bad, but like you say, it's a tool, and perhaps it really comes down to the user and how they're going to apply it. So with that as kind of our starting point, I think you kind of laid some groundwork for this, but let's talk a little bit more about how technology is transforming the landscape, and specifically, perhaps, in the investment component specifically.
So one thing that in our panel at the Quest Expo it's a little bit more fun when you have a direct response. You have an audience that you're like, hey, how many people this, how many people that? When you're online and you have most of your viewers watching after the fact, you don't really have that back and forth. But one of the biggest, I don't want to say flaw, but I don't know what word would be best, but blind spots is probably the best word for single family real estate investor types, the entrepreneur types, is they're not necessarily aware of all the tools that are out there. And, they're only introduced to tools when somebody tells you about them. And one of the tools that I've been introduced to in more of a corporate setting is something like Apollo.io. Now, that tool is great for list building and also email sequencing and a lot of automation aspect for the outreach. And it doesn't necessarily help you for, getting a house or anything like that. But if you're trying to develop investor relations or trying to raise capital, tools like that are hugely impactful. But the reason I bring up that one specifically is I use that daily. And
what is that called again?
Was that?
What was it called again?
Apollo.io.
Will you put that in the chat so everybody can have that for their reference?
Apollo.io.
Thank you.
I just wish I had an affiliate code. No, but the thing is, though, this goes to another point, is most real estate investors are cheap. They won't invest in the tools to help them grow. I think we joked about this the other night at my event, which is real estate investors will spend $20,000 on an antique front door, but the little things along the way, they're like, no. So Apollo.io is like $100 per user per month. And most single family investors would balk at that. They're like, whoa, that's too expensive. Is it though? Like, I spend $800 a month on Dropbox. Obviously, I'm a media company, so I have to have a lot of storage. So that's not necessarily relevant to most users. But if you're not going to use the tools to help grow your business, what are you doing? The question, I think you said the question is, with some of the tools that are out there. I'm sorry. I just went on my own little tangent.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It was that, and just some of the changes, but let's talk about the changes and pivot into some of the other advancements. It seems like you're kind of leading exactly where we want to go with some of the things we're talking about. But let's talk some more about some of the advancements and how it is kind of enhancing the community as a whole.
Yeah. So
and let's focus on some automation too. Like what is there in that respect?
Well, it really depends on which way you're looking at it, because there's accounting software out there that supposedly automates your bookkeeping efforts. The Apollo.io that I just brought up, it has an automation. It's a sequencing thing where you build it out, where this, then that, then this, then that, then this, then that. Zapier is hopefully by now most people are aware of that. If they're not, it's a third-party website that if you can connect your Google Mail to this, and it basically, when this happens, then you can have this happen, then this happen. And now with AI integration with a lot of these services, they'll build those for you. But one thing that on the panel that we kept on harping on is you always have, right now, AI technology is great, everything's great. But if you're solely reliant on that and you're not double checking the work, you will get screwed. You will have a flaw. You will miss deals. You will lose money because AI is not perfect. I mean, have you heard of? I think it's called. It's AI hallucinates. I don't know if you've heard about this. Where like ChatGPT, they call it hallucinations, where it's like if they can't come up with an answer, they'll invent an answer.
Yeah.
And in the world of reality, it's like just tell me you don't know. Don't make shit up. Excuse my language. But like, but if you're solely relying on like a chat GBT to tell you what to do, and you're not aware that it can quote unquote hallucinate, you'll find yourself in a bad situation. I will say if you're not using chat GBT, if you're not spending the $20 a month on chat GBT, go get that first. But even that should be used as not an executive assistant, but more of like a research assistant, where it's like, hey, how do I do this? Chat GPT. How do I do this? Chat GPT. But it's not the full on end all be all tool that people think it is, at least yet.
So give me an example for a dumb guy like me who's afraid of ChatGPT because I think it's going to, make me its slave. What are some common things that you would do with ChatGPT?
Okay, well, what in your job right now? What is something that takes more than 20 minutes?
Let's see. Organizing sales calls, trying to organize things around my office here.
Okay.
Working.
So anything physical, obviously AI is not going to be able to that.
Right.
But like anything digital, like you can run that through ChatGPT. I was at a lecture seminar the other day, and I had my iPad and I was taking my notes, and literally they had the slide up. I grabbed my iPad, took a picture, threw it in ChatGPT, and said, transcribe this real quick. Boom, extracted all the words from the PowerPoint and then copied it over into my notepad within seconds instead of having to write that out. That's just a very minor use case.
Okay.
A better use case would be like you're in a position where you would hire and fire people. Hey, I need a job description for a sales manager. I need an offer letter for a sales manager. I need a contract negotiations for this. Please summarize this email. Basically, when it comes to AI and it comes to ChatGPT, it's how creative can you get with the prompts themselves. So we live in this era where you don't have to be a coder, but you have to be creative with the prompts. And what's even crazier than that is you can straight up ask ChatGPT, hey, what is the best prompt to get XYZ result? And the best thing to do is just experiment. Like, I mean, I don't even, it's taken over Google for me, because like literally when I was driving up here, I was, like I told you, I was doing something this morning, and it was 11 o'clock and I was hungry, and I was like, I can't remember what time McDonald's stops their breakfast. ChatGPT, what time does McDonald's stop their breakfast? 11 o'clock. Normally it's like, how do I Google that specifically? So you can use ChatGPT as a better way to Google. Eventually, if not already, Google's going to catch up and be like, oh crap, we're losing market share to this, so we need to start doing that. But if you notice, Instagram, Facebook, everybody is implementing AI, and it's just a matter of utilizing it. But in the terms of real estate, it's still just a tool that needs to be double checked.
Okay.
I don't know if that's valuable.
It helps me. I mean, again, just linking it back to real estate, I think, is the critical thing.
We could just stick it. We could pretend it's just you and I, and we can have like a little mini mastermind on getting you into the whatever century we're in. Is it 22nd century, 21st? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe ChatGPT can tell me.
They can, yeah.
No, I think it's interesting how real estate. For some, they don't necessarily view it as their business, but it is their business if they're passive, So I think the ability for this technology to help ease the merger of those two things, I think, is the critical thing that people really need to understand and begin to embrace.
So one thing that I do want to preface, or I should have prefaced earlier, is I'm not actively using technology tools in real estate. All the
Okay.
real estate that I do is, Corey Thompson will be like, "Hey, I got this deal. Do you want to be on it? You don't have to show up. You don't even have to sign on it. You do want to be on it." I'm like, "Sure." Do I have to look at it? No. Cool. Will I make money? Yes. All right, cool. I'm on the deal. That's the type of real estate that I currently do. So I just want to put that there because, again, being in real estate, you're around people that love to flaunt how good they are. I love to be more on the authentic side.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm talking about these types of tools, it's all theory. That being said, if you're a flipper and you have all your numbers of how you bought it, what you spent on, all those numbers, you can run it through ChatGPT and say summarize. And then say you have another deal, say you have deal A, deal B, and you can say summarize this. And then you can say compare, contrast. And what is the average of this? What is the average of that? And it's basically a much quicker way to get like MBA level analysis of your deals that would have taken you hours, because let's face it, most investors haven't been in a math class in years. We're reliant on spreadsheets. Another thing is like, it's just a quicker way to do things that normally took a longer time.
So does it have implications for, again, some of the integrated things that go along with it, like the finances, like the insurance element of it, the sourcing of material? Is there an element of that goes into it too?
Well, yeah, because like one thing is like you should never use technology to replace a lawyer. You should never use technology to replace an insurance agent. You should have trusted people on your team. That being said, you can definitely use AI software like a ChatGPT to analyze this contract and let me know if there's anything that stands out. Analyze this insurance package and let me know what I'm in risk of. Hey, on 123 Main, and again, I'm talking in theory, 123 Main Street in Dallas, Texas, what are things that I should most likely be insuranced against? And 123 Houston, Texas, is probably going to give you a different things that you should have on your thing. And then that way, when you do have your trusted insurance agent, if they're not giving you the same things that the AI is telling you, then you can simply ask, "Hey, what about XYZ?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, you should have that." Or, "You know what? You don't necessarily need that. That's more of the southern part of town versus here." So these tools can allow you to become a little bit more knowledgeable, but it does not replace the professionals that you should pay and hire to do the services for you.
Yeah.
But it does speed up the process, if
Right,
that makes sense.
right. No, I think so, but I think it also harkens back to what you were saying about what was it, the blind spots or the
With investors.
Yeah, exactly. Where
Yeah, well, and when I talk about investors, obviously I'm talking in general. There's always going to be that guy or gal that's like, "Well, that's not me." It's like, I get it, but when you've been in this 10 plus years, there's typically a commonality there. I apologize if it's too close to home for some of you, but it is what it is. But again, but I think it's because when you're doing per house per transaction, this amount of wood, this amount of paint, these contractors, this insurance, this whatever is to this house. It's harder then to go all these other services that need to be spread out over multiple deals. It's hard for them to kind of use that. But also, I think it's just most people are cheap, and I hate to say that, but it's true. But for more of the IRA audience that are maybe looking to place capital, you literally could say, "Hey, give me your last 5 HUDs," and again, I'm talking in theory. I've never done this, but it's just an idea. Give me your last 5 HUDs, and then boom, throw those HUDs into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, analyze this. What stands out?" And just play, ask the questions. Because what AI is going to do is allow you to ask questions for free or $20 a month versus a lawyer that's going to cost you $200,000 an hour, depending on who it is.
Yeah. So it sounds like, yeah, there are a lot of challenges that people face. And it seems like, maybe one of the bigger challenges is kind of that balance of relying on the automation and relying on the face to face. So it's not one or the other. It's got to be a balance of both.
Yeah. And there's certain people, some people are using, like one of the panelists from our event, Chris, he was talking about how he's playing with automation and AI and automation of customer service, where you're calling in or people call in and their call centers are fully AI'd people, or not, they're not people, computers. So you're like, hey, this is so-and-so. And then you don't know it's AI at all. We're getting to that point, and that's why, as a media company, like I'm pushing when I talk to potential clients, I'm like, hey, it's all about validity. Organic marketing is kind of dead, at least in my eyes. But like, if you need to verify and validate your presence, video is a great way to do it. Because, I mean, will AI be able to mimic this conversation? Absolutely, but it ain't there yet. The CGI stuff you see in Hollywood, they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to do that. We're not there yet. So, them AI or China or Russia trying to take over you, a random person in Texas or Oklahoma, it's probably not likely going to happen. Will it happen in the next 5-10 years? Probably, but right now it's not. So as a media company, I'm like, look, you need to validate yourself now, or you will be forgotten. Because reality is, if you're not on the internet being who you say you are, how can I trust that? How, unless I meet you in person at a networking event, and being at networking events, and like you said, they're very incredibly valuable. It's not scalable. You can't go to an event every single day. I mean, you could, but then you're not going to be working. And even if you did, how many people are you going to be able to actually have a valuable or a good quality conversation with to grow that network?
Okay. So just kind of, right off the top of your head, I mean, what do you think is the one main thing that technology can be the most helpful with for, about any real estate investor? If there's one thing in particular. And by the way, I also want to say that, with the folks who are out there, we do invite your questions. So by no means, we want this to be kind of an open dialogue. So if you do have questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the box. I'm gonna go through a couple of categories. So
okay,
let's look at technology. So let's talk risk management.
Okay. Again, with risk management, there's certain softwares. I know one of the panelists was talking about how she uses software that is AI generated to run numbers and actually do that risk analysis. I don't remember what it was specifically, but I know it's out there. The reality is, all of this is a Google search away. Nowadays, AI is such a big catch-all, be-all term. They're using it. There's a big land grab for all of it. So there's probably 2 to 3 different services for everything you can think of. So for risk analysis, to me, I would use ChatGPT only because I'm not familiar with the other things, and just be really good at asking questions. And I fall back on that, as like I said before, if you can be a prompt master and understand how to ask the proper questions, you will dominate in that space.
Okay. How could it help you in doing due diligence?
Same thing. Mm-hmm. It depends on when you say due diligence, because due diligence is so broad. Are we talking about due diligence about the deal itself, due diligence on the lending company, the investor, the deal, the person, the partner?
Yeah.
The reality is you can use tools to gather information and compile that information, and where it may take you weeks on weeks to go through it, it could take the technology seconds. That being said, depending on what sort of due diligence you're talking about, it does not replace a lawyer. It does not replace a financial consultant. It doesn't replace an IRA specialist. Right. That being said, it can speed up the timeline to go through those processes, because even with using your services, I'm sure there's a ton of paperwork to go through that you have to walk people through. But if they were able to show up to your office with 80% of it done, then all of a sudden it's a quicker process. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair. You kind of touched on it a little more, but let's, again, focus on it. What about, evaluating deals? Are there other ways that it can like really hone in, and, are there implications if you're doing single family, multifamily, if you were trying to lend money to somebody who's going to do a single family?
So this is the fun one, because on this one, there's still that art form factor, like comps are comps are comps, but you still have to know how to kind of voodoo hex your way into understanding what the numbers mean. Because the reality is, like, there's plenty of deal that looks great on paper, but then you get boots on the ground and you're like, oh no. There was a deal several years ago that on paper looked like it was gonna, like Daniel Moore and I were looking at it. It was a multifamily complex up in Amarillo, and we were going to get it for a steal, and it was so run down. It was an abandoned property that we're like, wow, we could put 25,000 per door into this thing and get it occupied, and we could make $2 to $3 million on the flip. We go up there, the police show up, they're like, don't buy this property. And they're like, why? Well, the neighbor over there is the panhandle crack cocaine kingpin, and every time somebody tries to renovate this, they sabotage the project. So you could buy it, you could throw money at it, but I guarantee you're going to lose money. Technology is not going to change that. Technology is not going to help you out that. Can it run the numbers and tell you, wow, this is a steal of a deal? Yeah, but you still have to be the boots on the ground. You still have to do the fact finding. You still have to have that art form and that common sense factor that comes with experience in this game. Same thing with single family properties. Like a buddy of mine was looking at a property the other day, and it was like, man, this is 10 bedrooms. It's 3,000 square feet, blah, 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 blah. I could do this. I could do this. I could pick it up for 150. I'm like, are you an idiot? Look at next door. There's a freeway. Also, look at next door. There's a giant homeless camp. Like, the numbers on that may look like, oh, wow, this is steal a deal. But if you're not using the common sense factors of just being no duh, like, you will get, you will lose your shirt. So these tools are tools, but if you're solely reliant on that, you'll screw yourself.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. All right. I think we do have a question in here. Okay. There it is. Using ChatGPT, how do you find the source pages for the info returned to verify the validity of the answers?
It's easy. ChatGPT, give me the source pages. And again, it just goes to proper prompting. Like, if you're like, hey, give me the answers, but also cite your answers, it will do that for you.
Really?
But this goes back to that hallucination factor. If you're not citing those answers, you'll get fake. Sometimes, not always, you'll get that fake information. But, for Russell Thomas, it's honestly, it's just as easy as adding another line of prompt where it's cite your sources. And nowadays it's so good that it'll link back to it where you can click on it and go.
Interesting. Now, it's kind of, a while back, we did some research using ChatGPT about Quest and other companies. And, I noticed that when I started looking at the answers, it seemed like a lot of the information that we put out there is sort of what the algorithm was using with the information we got back. Are there ways that people can simply influence algorithms to make it more favorable for themselves?
What do you mean? Can you rephrase the question?
So, like, when we researched, some other companies and Quest, I noticed that we got back a lot of the things that we say about ourselves. That was kind of what we got in the response. So, I mean, is it a case of where sometimes you can influence the algorithm by what you put out there about yourself?
So in a situation like that, like, and again, this is just me thinking through this problem. What it is probably doing when you're like, tell me about Quest, they're searching the internet. The
Yeah.
reality is most of the internet that has most about Quest stuff is going to be on questtrust.com. It's going to be on Quest Trust YouTube page. It's going to be on Quest Trust Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. What you could do is do the same prompt, but say something like, don't use any of Quest Trust websites or social media to gather information. Only use public forums or public blogs to get what the general public is saying. But this goes back to just thinking through the problem and realizing where the information is coming from. Because if the information is coming from the internet, and like if I put on the internet that Ryan Harper is the sexiest man alive, and I have 17 websites dedicated to my sexiness, and I ask ChatGPT, hey, tell me about Ryan Harper, it's probably going to tell me I'm the sexiest man alive. But if you put in there, tell me Ryan Harper, don't use any of the Ryan sexiest man alive websites, you know, who knows what it'll return. So it's just all about thinking through the problem and really going through those prompts and figuring out what's the best way. It's just troubleshooting 101. That's really what it is, and working through the problem itself. But like all those softwares, there's so many softwares, so many different tools. And the reality is a lot of those tools are just them already pre-thinking through the problems for you.
Okay. Looks like we got another one. Let's see. In the beginning, ChatGPT was trained only to a certain, oh, right. It only goes back a couple of years.
Yeah.
Is that being updated, or are there still those information lags?
So I think now, and again, I don't work for ChatGPT. I'm not with OpenAI, but I think what nowadays, depending on your subscription level, like I pay for it, so I think I have real time. I think it goes to the internet to get the information. It is actively searching the internet. Now, like ChatGPT 2.0, I think it was like 4-year-old data. But now I think if you're paying for it, you're getting real time data. But I could be wrong. I'm open for being told I'm wrong. But you know who could be right? Ask ChatGPT. I mean, and again, I feel like I'm shill for ChatGPT and OpenAI, but it's really like that.
I mean, they're the dominant player, so they're the ones we really need to, kind of be most probably cognizant of, I would say.
But and again, I don't want to be too harping on that, but like there's other tools like we talked about in the panel, like there's things like Firefly's AI, which are transcription devices for your Zoom calls or your Google Meet calls, where immediately like transcribe it and give you the notes of the call. That to me is incredibly invaluable. I was saying earlier how you could take a picture of a PowerPoint and turn it into notes. Most of my meetings nowadays, I record audio. That way I can run it through some sort of summary, transcription summary, give me notes thing. I'll still take my notes, but like if I can record the full call or record the full meeting and giving my key takeaways, and then I give that to a VA or, hey, what do I need to add to my calendar? Like that's hopefully allowing me not to have tasks fall through the cracks.
Looks like there was a little bit of a follow-up to that as well. He's saying his data is currently, it looks like about a year old. Can I use browsing to gather up-to-date details as well? I guess it's a question of just other sources, in addition to the ChatGPT. If there's limitations, like what would you, is that where maybe you would, again, kind of blend some of the personal with the technology, maybe?
Yeah, so like he's absolutely right. Like, because I literally just added ChatGPT, how current is the data that Chat is using for data? The data I currently use of 2023. If you need information as recent events, I can use real-time browsing to provide the latest dates. So in that situation, what it's saying is, give me the website I need to browse. So like another cool thing about it is like, so um what is Quest Trust? So if I go to
Trust company.
Quest Trust website, you know, questtrustcompany.com, and I can copy that over and go to ChatGPT and tell me what this company does, and I do your website. And this would be a lot better if we did a screen share, but it doesn't matter.
Just
So what
be
I did
careful
was,
on what the answer it gives you is. Okay.
yeah. So I went to ChatGPT, and I'm going to drop in our chat what it said. Well, it won't give me the full set. Where did it say? Whoopsies. Maybe I'll just drop that over here. Sorry, this is riveting content. You know, but like Questress is a premier self-directed IRA custodian that allows individuals to diversify their investment portfolios by investing in alternative assets such as real estate. Blah 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 blah. That sounds something close to what y'all do. You know,
I would say so.
and all I did was I gave its website. So that's what it's saying is like, if you're just searching, yeah, it's July 23. But if you give a specific website, it will do that. So what you could do is like, if somebody is like, hey, I want to raise capital for xyz.com, you can type in xyz.com. Hey, give me a synopsis of this company. Boom. You know, but again, there's so many more tools than just ChatGPT. Um, it's insane, but you just got to Google it and figure it out. For us, you know, we're a media company, so there's tools like Autopod, which allow us to edit podcasts way quicker than before. Now, you still need to have that creative element. You still have to have that creative oversight to go in there. But before, you used to have to, if you either live switch it or you would have to go in and cut all those edits of left cam, B cam, middle cam, all the way through. Well, with Autopod, it allows you to say, okay, this camera angle is speaker one, this camera angle is speaker two, this audio is speaker one, this audio is speaker two. Hey, go. And what it'll do is automatically cut up the podcast within 45 seconds. That's something that would an hour long podcast probably would have taken 2 to 3 hours to get that base edit. Now it's done in 45 seconds. So tools like that are incredibly helpful. There's also a site for creatives called Opus, which is you could take your full hour-long podcast, throw it through Opus, and say, hey, give me some podcast, or give me some reels, give me some shorts, give me some clips. Now, it takes a creative who's a little bit more advanced to kind of take that base and actually make something of it. But if you don't want to pay me money or pay a creative money, it gets you good enough to at least have it, because having something is better than nothing at all. So those are two tools that we use all the time. We use ChatGPT all the time, Fireflies all the time. I'm just trying to think of tools that I use that people might use.
Yeah.
Well, but I would be surprised if the tools that you're actively using aren't implementing some sort of AI features.
Yeah.
Like I have HubSpot, and I think they're adding in some AI features to it. Already, my email will summarize emails for me. Apollo will help you write email sequencing. When it comes to AI and it comes to creative, I think it's trash. Like I intentionally write bad emails now because I want people to know it's human. Like hell, I sent an email out yesterday where it was because I was sending an email. I mean, if you're watching this call, you maybe have it in your spam. Who knows? But it basically was just talking about how one of the services we offer is taking blog posts and making videos of it. But I address the elephant in the room in that email, talking about how, yeah, you could get AI to do it, but I've yet to see AI be worth a damn in the creative space. Because have you ever read an email and not gone, hey, that's a human, or that was obviously written by AI? AI emails are trash, in my opinion. So in my email, I was like, not an AI, just for fun. You know, will people read it? I don't know, but I felt better.
Yeah. So let's pivot away from then AI and let's talk a little bit more about, kind of the technology and the way you use it and how it builds people's business. Like I remember when we were at that meetup Monday, and again, we won't name names or, you don't have to go too deep into the conversation, but we were having a conversation with another gentleman and you were starting to talk about the ways that you are going to be able to help him at a high level without, again, violating any kind of privacy. Talk a little bit about some of the discussions you had, because some of the things you were talking about, you and Mackenzie, this seemed like it really kind of
Yeah.
played into that.
So the conversation was basically because we were talking about growing an Instagram page or growing a following,
Yeah.
and like, is there a way to target people? And it's like, the reality is the only way you're going to be able to target people is with paid adverts. Yes, you could target people with paid advertising, but when it comes to organic, the only way you can organically reach people is if you make content specifically for that person. People love to think we're so unique, but we're not. There's 10,000 other Ryan Harpers in this country alone. There's 10,000 other Steves. So what the way these algorithms work, everybody loves to complain about an algorithm. If you ever hear somebody talking about algorithm, all they're really saying is their content or whatever they're putting on the internet sucks. There is no such thing as beating the algorithm, because companies like Google, Instagram, Facebook, excuse me, TikTok, they're way smarter than any of us, and they're way ahead of the curve on any of us on this stuff. So when it comes to beating the algorithm, that's not going to happen. What you can do is go, you know what? I know Steve, the avatar of Steve, really likes cat videos, and I need to reach Steve. So I'm going to make a cat video. And what happens on these platforms is, if I have a Steve as a follower, it'll show you the video. If you watch the full video, you like it, you comment, it's going to show, say, 10 more Steves. If, say, 7 or 8 of those, and I'm just random numbers, this is not factual numbers, but let's just say the majority of the Steves of that watch it and they like it, then it's going to give it to a bigger subset of numbers. And if the majority of those like it, it's going to go to an even bigger number. And the next thing you know, it's going to hit all the Steves. And they're like, you know what? Maybe Ryan will like this too. So that's how a video goes viral, is when it shows the video to a Steve, and Steve likes it, it's going to show it to more and more Steves. So, but conversely, if I have a dog video and I show it to Steve, and you're like, skip it, it's probably going to test a couple more Steves. But if 3 or 4 Steves don't like that video, guess what it's not going to do? It's not going to keep growing. It's not going to go viral. So people love to blame the algorithm, but it's not the algorithm. It's you. You suck at what you're doing. Or you're just trying to get content to the wrong people. The beauty about YouTube is just a consistency game, because the longer you can stay doing it, and that's where people fail when it comes to content and making videos, is they give it 3 months, 6 months, oh, this doesn't work, and then they give up. The thing is, though, like Corey Thompson is a client of ours who a month ago or 2 months ago broke 100,000 on YouTube. We've been working with 2.5 years and just content every day, every day, every day. And then boom, something took off. And then boom, something else took off. And another thing took off. And those little viral moments help grow a channel, but one viral moment is not going to do anything. We have a former client who we had a mega viral moment where their video got 100 million combined views across all the platforms, but then they stopped being a client, and then they stopped with the consistent quality content. And guess what their channel hasn't done? It hasn't grown. And the reason it hasn't grown is because they stopped being consistent. They stopped doing quality content. They're consistently doing content now, but it's not good. So that's why it's not getting viewed. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to YouTube and content specifically, it's all about the consistency and just having the foresight to really be in it for the long term. Is that Does that answer your question? Sometimes I just start talking and I'm like, oh God, I'm sorry.
No, I think it hit it. I think you got to it. Hey, we got another question, and this is from a new friend of ours, Anil Kumar. He's asking to talk about specific tools for a beginner can use, and I think what he's really looking for is kind of investment selection, evaluation, things like that.
Yeah, for this, like honestly, I personally don't have experienced that other than saying something like covering what we talked about earlier about using like tools like ChatGPT to analyze deals and go through it. Um, hey, because you can use ChatGPT to be like, when you're going through the deal itself and be like, if you come across something you don't know, hey, what does this mean? What does this mean? Teach me about this contract. Teach me about this deal. But as far as like deal analysis tools, I'm not versed enough in that world. But when it comes to raising capital or outreach, tools like Apollo.io are great because then you're like, hey, I need C-suite level oil and gas guys in Dallas, Texas that are part of companies that are 50 million above. And you can build that persona, and then Apollo.io will kick you back all those people. And then you can go, well, I only want the CEOs. I only want the CMOs. I only want the executive assistants. And then you'll get the spreadsheet of individuals, and then you can get their emails, and then you can get their LinkedIn. And then you can either reach out to them on LinkedIn, reach out to them through email. Apollo.io will even give you credits to get their phone numbers. So you can call these people. But that, to me, a tool like that is far more important than a deal analysis tool, because when it comes to raising capital in deal flow, like the money side of it is way more important than the analysis side, because a good deal will scream that it's a good deal. Now, knowing it's a good deal and knowing that the person behind it is legit, that comes with experience. Because I mean, let's face it, I personally know people right now that have multifamily deals that are going under and about to lose a couple $1 million just because the GP on the deal was an idiot and ran the thing to the ground. Does that happen? Unfortunately, it does. But that's why you need to make sure that when you're getting in bed with these people, you're getting in bed with really good people, and you vet them and you get referrals and you make sure that the deal itself and the person itself is good. Again, we've said it 1,000 times. There's no tool on the internet that's going to replace good judgment and just common sense as a human.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, it's like I've told people many, many times is, you can even be working with probably some of the better operators that are out there. 9 deals can go perfectly and then 10 goes bad. And, sometimes it's not, the individual, sometimes it's acts of God or whatever. But, like they say, I mean, you've always got to keep, evaluating and doing your due diligence and those things, because you're only really as good as your next deal in many ways.
Yeah, and that's where that risk analysis comes into play. But again, you're asking about tools. That's why I like ChatGPT is so broad and so general and so good, because literally you can put your entire portfolio into it and just say things like, hey, where am I at risk? I don't know what would happen. It may say, look, you've got too much money over here and not enough over here. You're not balanced enough. You think you're balanced, but you're not. You've got too much Bitcoin. You're an idiot. I don't know. It will never say you're an idiot. But the whole point of investing is to be, and I'm not an investment advisor, and I'm the last person to talk to because all my money's in my gear and my studio and my company. But if you are in a place to be in an investing side of things, it should be diversified. It should be spread out, because you don't want one thing to blow up and all of a sudden all your money's gone.
Well, I think that might be a really interesting point too, is that it seems to me as I'm listening to this and thinking about things I've done in the past, I've actually worked with tools like that in my previous life in financial analysis where we could do those kinds of things, but those weren't the kinds of things that people had at their fingertips. they needed someone like me that had access to that tool. And now it's like this technology seems to have democratized a lot of these things for the individual.
Yes and no, though, because like these tools have always been around, maybe not to this extent of AI, but like it always comes down to it's I was watching Maverick Top Gun last night. It's the guy in the seat. It's the guy in the cockpit, the pilot. It comes down to the pilot. Same thing here. It comes down to the investor and the work ethic. I've said for years, some of the stupidest people I know in real estate are some of the most successful people in real estate because they work their tails off. Whereas some of the smartest people I know in real estate are still analyzing their first deal. You know, at the end of the day, it's who's going to pull the trigger and who's going to jump off the ledge. And all these tools are tools, but they're none of them are ever going to say, hey, go buy the deal. Hey, go place that capital. Hey, I've got $100,000 in my IRA. Should I lend it to this thing? Should I buy this thing? It's going to give you probabilities or ideas, but it still comes down to the individual investor to make the decision. Mm-hmm. And if you have a problem making a decision, maybe investing your own money is not the way to be. Maybe hire a financial planner, hire somebody else, have somebody trusted that to use your capital. But analysis paralysis is never the way to go when it comes to real estate. And if you never heard analysis paralysis, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just analyzing endlessly and then never pulling the trigger. Yeah. Conversely, I'm a jump off the cliff and figure out how to fly kind of guy. Do I go splat? Well, there's a book that I have or I recently read, which is the Final Fight, which basically it's by one of my mentors, Shane Hunter, which is basically, the whole book can be summarized into this kind of this thought is if you refuse to have that last round or that final fight, you'll never lose. So if you never admit defeat and you keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, you can't fail. Now, at some point, that's probably not the best investment advice. Sometimes it's like you got to go, hey, I need to move on. The sunk cost on this, I should move on. But for like running a business or those types of things, well, if you don't admit defeat, you'll never lose. That's not financial advice, obviously.
That is not. Absolutely not. All right. We're about 5 minutes or so from the top of the hour, so let's bring it in for a landing, Maverick. What do you just tell us a little bit about kind of what you foresee? The emerging technologies, how it's going to help, real estate investing, marketing, whatever you want to kind of focus on here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like everything is. I think technology, we were talking about the other day, we were talking about the panel where I think we're going to, in the rest of 24 and into 25, we're going to see a bunch of individuals going for the money grab. I think there's going to be a ton of real estate softwares that are AI powered to help buy property. There's going to be a ton of AI driven type real estate events that are going to help place your capital. And I think it's all a money grab. I'm not going to call it scams, but I think it's going to be an attempt to extract your money from your wallet and put it in their money in their wallet. Will those tools and the information they provide be helpful? Absolutely. AI is a tool that can help really push forward the narrative. Is it something that you need a mentor for? I don't think so. Is it something you go to a minute for? I don't think so. But again, I allow to be proven wrong. I may go to those events. I don't know. But I've seen it time and time and time again when it comes to the real estate world specifically, is anytime there's something new, people, the guys at the top immediately find a way to create a mastermind behind it, create some sort of training course behind it, some sort of platform behind it where you have to pay to be a part of it. And then eventually you realize, oh, I didn't need to pay for this at all. So I do see that happening. And that's not to discredit any of the guys that are doing training, because training is valuable. I'm a part of masterminds right now. They are very worthwhile. But the reality is a lot of the information is already on the internet. So that's one thing I definitely foresee happening. As far as help tools to help you get better, absolutely, they're going to keep on coming to the marketplace. And eventually, will there be like one-click situations where it's like, can I buy this property? Possibly, but we're not there yet. I think it's still going to come down to the guy that's willing to drive for dollars, go out and knock on the door and make an offer. I think that person is going to win. I think the person that's reliant on the next technology, they're going to look cool and they're going to have some cool things to talk about at the happy hour, but they're not going to have as much money as the door knocker.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to really get them as far.
Right.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you. I really appreciate this. This was a great chance to kind of revisit the subject.
Yeah, I do want to say, like, the panel that we were on was, I think, a little bit better. I think me and you talking is great and all. You're a good-looking dude and all, and it's a fun conversating. But the other panelists, I think, had a better, well-rounded, specifically for real estate. But but hopefully this was valuable and at least eye-opening to the possibilities of what this stuff can do versus, am I on the fence? Like, just go pay the $20 a month for ChatGPT and play with it. Even if you don't use it in your business, just play with it. And I think people will be surprised.
Good advice. All right. Well, why don't we leave it at that? And again, just want to say thank you to the audience out there. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And Ryan, you want to just tell people where they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, but the reality is it's interesting. And just to take 30 more seconds, when I worked at Propelio, I was on Facebook 5 to 8 hours a day. But they kept changing the way they did the user interface. And I'm no longer on Facebook as much. I'm way more active on LinkedIn. So the lesson there is know your audience. So for your IRA guys that are looking to either generate more capital or place capital, you got to think in terms of business. Where are business people? Business people are on LinkedIn. Whereas Facebook, you're going to get more of the single family guys or the people that are beating their chest, hey, I'm really good at this. It's still valuable, it's still social. But if you're looking to really build a business, LinkedIn is the way to go. Just a quick side note. But yeah, Ryan S. Harper on all those things. If anybody ever needs video production, whether that be social media, podcasting services, or if you'd like to film commercials, harperbelmont.com. We're here to help you out. We also do event services. So hey, I have a company and I want to go to XYZ conference and I want to be the biggest company there. We'll come in and we'll build out trussing and we'll build out a studio right there on the trade show floor. Now, is that going to be for a conference where you're paying $500 a sponsor? No. It's for a conference where you're probably already spending $50,000 to $200,000 to be there. So just keep that in mind. That being said, one of the services that we just did that I think for the small to mid-sized companies is that taking blog posts and converting them into videos. We just did this for Jewelers Mutual, which is a big insurance company for jewelry out of Wisconsin, where we took 25 of their blog posts. We produced, we wrote, we scripted, hired talent, brought in hair and makeup, sourced all the jewelry, and we made these basically short films and put them on the internet for them. So basically anything film or video related, social media or more, Harper Belmont can be your guy. That is not so much an elevator pitch. Maybe it's an elevator pitch for the Burj Khalifa if we're going up 100 floors, but not the 5th floor. So I apologize.
All right. Well, good. Thank you for that. And again, thanks for your time. And thank you, everybody out there, for your time. I hope you found this useful. Going to be archived on our YouTube channel. So if you think this is interesting and somebody else might want to know about it, they didn't catch it, share the link, share the information. And of course, you can always reach out to us at Quest Trust Company as well if you have any other questions. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for joining us.
Take care.
Bye.